Hello, gear fans. It's very late at night, and I thought I'd do a little video here. Let me explain this weird bed, by the way. It's just an extra set of mattresses and blankets and crap that we put down so that this dude here likes to use it. Sometimes he demands that we jump in there and pet him. So anyway, that's what that weird bed in the middle of the studio is about, in case you're wondering, because it looks so weird. Looks like I got kicked out of the house. That's the real reason, by the way. The dog thing was just a cover story. Gear snobbery, which is me, is not okay. If it sounds good, it is good. I have to learn that if it sounds good, it is good. There are guys with way less gear than me that do better recordings. They're better musicians. They sing better, they play guitar better, they drum better. And they're not gear snobs. I mean, I know a guy that operates in his kitchen. And I mean, look what I got to work with here. Mind the mess. It's always a mess down here. Anybody that watches my videos knows that. But right, like I got all this. The guy I have in mind is a local. His name is Sean. He, as far as I know, last I heard, he works in a corner of his kitchen with like 1/100th the gear I have. He has way better output. He's a better musician. He records better. So yeah, being a gear snob and a gear hoarder and having gear acquisition syndrome, it's not okay, and I know it. But I like playing with gear. Quest for Gear, that's the name of the channel. I'll watch some Led Zeppelin on YouTube or a Who DVD or Pink Floyd Pompeii or Pink Floyd, and I'm just like, I gotta collect all that gear. Now I need a high watt amp, and I need Marshall stack, and this jazz bass. Well, we'll get to that, I guess. This jazz bass is because I know the Beatles had a Fender jazz bass. They had was it the Mark V or the Mark VI as well? But this is they had a jazz bass during the White Album, 68, 69, and 70, and then Paul McCartney, took it on with him. I'm actually getting the Paisley pickguard, so it'll look like theirs, except that this is a maple neck. Anyway, so that's a recent acquisition. But yeah, so like I said, more talented people have 1/100th of the gear that I have, and they do a better job. So the little bit of compromise, the little bit of humbling that I am willing to accept lately is not all of my stuff now has to say Fender on it. My compromise has been I now have, I think, 4 Squiers down here, including that bass. That's a Squire. This is a pawn shop dealio. This Squire. I think this Mustang over here is a Squire, if you can see that Mustang. And then this Jazzmaster is a Squire. I think that's all the Squires that I had. Now I can tell you, when I was in high school with my buddies, we were in a band. We were gear snobs. Like, it had to be Fender. You couldn't buy a Squire for 300 Canadian. You had to pay 450, 500 for the Mexican Fender Strat. You couldn't buy a crate amp or a PV amp. I mean, we did when that's all we could afford, but then we upgraded as fast as we could because we were gear snobs. My other guitar player always had a nice Fender Princeton 112. That's one thing I never had in high school. I couldn't afford a nice amp, so I always had a crap amp in high school. But as soon as I started making some money in my 19, 20 years, it was name brand stuff. So where am I going with this? Well, yeah, we'd sold. This is actually my girlfriend's guitar. The video is actually about this Jazzmaster right here, champagne burgundy. And let me switch that up a little bit. Let me get this guy, my new bass, which I love, by the way. I just love it. Move him out of the way. And we will move the Jazzmaster over here so we can talk about it. So this is actually my girlfriend's guitar, her first guitar. She only plays a little bit, but so I had bought it for her because it was cheap. I think it was like 400 Canadian a couple years ago. And when in this inflation, with all the radical global inflation, the socialism that is crushing us from every direction, between the climate tax scam and the minimum wage hikes and the tax hikes and the banker, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, all inflating their prices. It's tough out there. But even a couple years ago, like during COVID, this thing was only, I think, 400 Canadian. So I bought it for her. But I also got her this beautiful avocado Strat. So here's me kind of not being a snob again. Starting to try to learn to not be a snob. And that's not a Fender. That's a master builder luthier out of a local town. He does amazing work for Nashville. I'm very privileged. He built this one too. He built this Telecaster. He calls his guitars Curtis. I think that's his last name. I actually got to meet the gentleman. He builds, anyway, we're just very privileged. But anyway, so I bought the girlfriend this avocado Strat. She liked it a lot more. And I just complained and complained and complained about the Jazzmaster that I bought her. She was fine with it. She liked the color. She liked everything about it. And I just complained and complained. You know what my problem was? What that says on the headstock. That's my problem there. I am at the heart of it. See that? This guy here? This Jazzmaster, Squire. I have a problem with that. And I shouldn't. If it sounds good, it is good. If it plays good, it is good. Now here's the thing. The frets are sharp on this. It needs some work. You know how many good guitar techs there are in this town? Tons. I can get that fixed. I could get the pickups pulled out, put the Jazzmaster pickups in. Maybe I will. So, and I find even then, say you take a $400 Jazzmaster and you put $200, $300 into it, you're still cheaper than them $1,000 Fender players, you know. And then the next step was $1,500, and then the next step up. There are Mexican Fenders out there right now for $2,000. Mexican Fenders for 2,000 Canadian. That's crazy. So it's still cheaper to buy these pawn shop dealies. I got that Mustang for 200 Canadian at a pawn shop. Just walked into a pawn shop, $200. It's a little weedy. It's I think it's a Bullet. I'd have to look that up. Pretty sure it's a Bullet. But anyway, my point is, well, I'm rambling. My point is, I had a problem with that Squire logo. I'm embarrassed by it. And I shouldn't be. That is wrong. That is not right. Squire was a fine guitar company back in the Beatles' day. I don't know if you know that. Paul McCartney owned a Squire back when he was in the Beatles. I could be wrong. I'd referenced that recently. And then at some point, you know, Squire and Fender became one company, and Squire became the little kid beginner company at some point. And at some point, they must not have been so good because they got a real dirty name in the 90s. And yeah, me and my friends, we were snobs. Like, oh, Squire, oh, that new kid, you know, that kid just bought a Squire, you know. It was a beginner guitar. It's not right. It's not a good attitude to have, right? The attitude is to ignore what's on the headstock. There are some major, like, AAA players out there, like major guys that play Squire guitars on purpose. These are multimillionaires that can own anything they want. So here's what happened with this guitar. I kept saying I didn't like the color, which I didn't. It's, what is it called? Burgundy or champagne? I don't love the color. And she's just like, well, whatever. Like, she wasn't really playing it. She prefers this avocado Strat. This is also her Gretsch now. That's what we actually traded that in for. We traded that in for this Gretsch, which she loves. So how do we get this back? Well, her and I have been to that guitar store a couple times, and we keep seeing it in the stores. Seeing it in the store we traded into. And it was like we put a kid out for adoption. Like, and neither her and we didn't say anything to each other. So she'd see it and she'd be sad, and I'd see it and I'd be sad. And it was almost like leaving a pet, or like, you know, abandoning a bird, you know, this budgie you didn't want to take care of, and then you see it later. So finally today, I'm like, hey, is my Jazzmaster that I traded in still around here? They're like, yeah, it's still around here. And the guy at the store says, it's a great guitar. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And in my head, I'm going, I'm just a snob. I just don't like that it says Squire on the headstock, and that's not right. So the guy went on the phone and was busy. So I searched the whole store and I found it. I'm like, and I panicked a little bit. I'm like, maybe he's wrong. Maybe somebody bought it. And I'm like, oh no, somebody adopted my child. So I bought it. And the stores here are so good. he gave me a great deal on buying it back. It's like a buyback in Baldur's Gate 3 or Skyrim, you know, like the buyback price, you know. Um, so I come home with it with this Jazzmaster bass, and my girlfriend sees me out the window sneaking guitars in, which I do like all the time. And she catches me in the kitchen with the Jazzmaster and the the Squire, I'm sorry, the Jazzmaster and the jazz bass. Huh, two jazzy guitars today. And she goes, "You bought it?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh," she's like, "I'm really glad you bought it, because every time I seen it at the store, I was sad." And I said, "Yeah, I know. Like, me too." And it was like wrong of me to be such a snob, you know, on this one, or to have this one bother me, or to have this one bother me. Where's the other Squire? There's 4 Squires around here, right? Oh, the new jazz bass. To have that bother me, it's not right, right? Ooh, it's so much better. That one says Fender on it. Yeah, I don't know. I got to get over it. Nobody cares what I own. You know, my friends don't care. My family doesn't care. If I were to play on stage with this guy, they're not looking at your headstock. I mean, I am. I just went to a show last week and I was totally checking everybody's gear out, like in detail. But that's, you know, you and me, you watching this video and me, like, we're gear people, right? That's a little different. But the general public does not give a darn if you're playing a Squire or a PV or a No Name or a Westbury drum. You know what I mean? People don't care. They just see a red guitar. So, yeah, I don't know. So what am I going to do from here? I'm going to try to learn to not be such a snob. I'm going to try to learn to accept the Squire name. And I'm going to get rid of the actual physical sound things that drive me nuts. Okay? So the frets are a little sharp. All right? You can get that on any guitar. You could buy a really expensive Gibson and get sharp frets, right? I mean, quality control problems happen, right? Go to Glenn Fricker's channel. He calls out Gibson on paint jobs and sharp frets and everything. So I'll just make these Squires physically what I want them to be. That's the other fun thing. For 400 Canadian, you could put stickers on this thing. You could, you know, I would never wear something out on purpose because that's like a poser thing to do. But you could make sure you're not too careful with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even have a case for this, so I could bring it to a gig and like kind of go, "Ah, shit, it got banged up." You know, like, you don't need to care as much for $400. Whereas, you know, my Fender P bass is worth, you know, $1,000. You want to be careful with that. I would not ever put a ding in this. Obviously, you know, 1959 reissue, 1959 studio. I don't even know. Gibson actually got back to me on the serial number on this. They told me what it is. Anyway, it's like worth $1,500 used, and you don't want to put a ding in something like that. I don't want to put a ding in this Telly because it's so beautiful. I don't want to put a ding in this this Richmond. But the old Jazzmaster picks some dings up. For me, that's just gonna look even cooler. The Jag stand came with some battle damage that I didn't do. I don't think the phone's gonna pick that up, but what I'm saying is, for Squire being cheap guitars, you can paint them, you can mod them, you can drill holes in them, you can ding them up, it don't matter. So in a way, they're better than Fender branded guitars, you know? So anyway, just a little rant on being a guitar snob or a gear snob in general. I think some gears it's definitely worth, you know, the money to have the real thing. Definitely in guitar pedals. I mean, there's cheap guitar pedals, but sometimes you want to have the real thing, you know? And sometimes you don't. I got some hand builts over here. That's a hand built. That's a hand built. That's a hand built. But I don't have any like Amazon $30 ones, but my buddies do, and they like them. Mike over at I Love Recording has, I think he's got a Joyo that he's been recommending me that I want to check out. It's his deluxe, I think. I seen a video on it the other day. It was like awesome for $30. And my buddy Craig's got a some kind of multi-effects pedal for $30 off Amazon. It works. But yeah, sometimes you want the real deal. You want the real big muff. But that big muff's only 125 bucks, right? So, or classic. I got that at a pawn shop for like 60 bucks. And you can go find somewhere near your town, you can go find this for 60 bucks at a pawn shop, probably. So anyway, yeah. I got guitar snob issues. I'm trying to get over it. And so I'm going to try to be okay with the fact that the headstock says that. I'm going to rip these pickups out, put proper pickups in on that one. I think I won't do any other modifications there. It's a very rhythmy, chordy guitar. It doesn't play lead really well anyway. It just doesn't. So I'll put new pickups in that guy. What else we got? Why can't I find my Squires? This guy, I don't know. They already got Seymour, Duncan Design. They already got like a Seymour Duncan Design pickup in it. Like, what more can I do to this thing? Probably nothing. This guy, I'll do the Jazzmaster pickups. And that's it. Like I said, if I catch a few dings on this guy, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Let me just say what I'm really thinking. I want this one to be road worn. I think it would look cooler with dings and road worn in, but I'm not going to purposely drag it down the street and go, oh, shoot, look what happened. I want it to be naturally road worn if that's what happens. The same with the jazz bass, the Squire jazz bass. I've not really looked into what I may or may not do there. I may bring it right back to the store I just bought it from. Oh, actually, I do know what I'm doing. I'm getting one of these turtle shell pick guards for it just because I don't like the white. But anyway, I may bring it back to the music store and just say, look, can I just get a setup? Like, it's okay, but the guy that works there that does the guitar work is so good that it's worth it to buy a guitar from that store and then turn around and hand it back in and go, now do it up, because they're just really good at it. The guy's got 30 years experience or something like that. Actually, there's a couple guys there that just fix guitars all day. And that's just that one music store. We got 3 music stores in town. So, but anyway, yeah. Here's to hoping that I can stop being such a guitar snob. And I sure am happy to have my Jazzmaster back, or her Jazzmaster back, I should say. It's kind of mine. I mean, it's hers, it's mine, whatever. But, yeah. And an emotional day. Thanks for watching.